Hey, you're watching Roll for Crit, and we are here with Mike Canavan of Icarus Tours, and he does a thing called gaming vacations, which if you haven't ever heard of such a concept, it sounds like some magical, mystical thing that you didn't think could possibly exist. Mike, could you walk us through briefly to start off what that means, what it is you guys do, and how it all works?
Yeah, so a gaming vacation is really kind of a hybrid between your standard kind of American vacation and a game convention. For the most part, the guests are at a destination that they want to be at, despite gaming being there. And then during the day, they're typically out enjoying themselves, being your kind of average tourist at a great destination. But then in the evenings, a lot of the guests will come down to the game area and play games with us just like any other convention. We've got a huge gaming library, a really friendly staff, and probably the other big thing that sets it apart different from a game convention is that we target a smaller group. So unlike the game convention that's trying to get hundreds and thousands of people there, we're trying to get 50 to 100 people there. So it's a much smaller, much tight-knit group. It feels more like you're playing with your friends than just strangers you've met at a game hall. Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's like a regular vacation kind of hosting, but at night there's like a big library of stuff to do, of games to play.
Exactly. Yeah. It came to mind for me like 5 years ago when I started looking at my own situation, which I knew was very much like a lot of the gaming population, which is I've kind of grown up, I've got a wife, I've got kids, and the idea of spending the amount of money that I would need to go to a place like Gen Con or whatnot, or one of the big cons, I couldn't really justify it in my life because my wife, she games a little bit, but certainly not like I do, and certainly not like she would enjoy at Gen Con. So I came up with this idea of like, well, what if I came up with a true vacation that you could get someone to go to that does not play games and they would enjoy themselves?
To trick them into it.
Well, also to give them to give them the sort of the activity, so you're not just playing games 24/7. Like we could do that,
right?
But some people don't really.
Even we have our limits.
Yes.
Yeah, our vacations are a full week in length, so I don't feel like the guests feel rushed on either aspect of it. They're not. The fact that they're spending their evenings in the game hall doesn't diminish the fact that they're spending 5-6 full days in the destination. And similarly, they get to play a lot of games. And the other aspect that the staff is there helping the transition between both those things. So the staff is not only helpful for the gaming, but also for the location. You kind of have this concierge level kind of experience of, I can ask these guys who know the area about where to go eat or what to do tomorrow. And we set up things like horseback riding and whitewater rafting and all these other things that people can enjoy in addition to all the great gaming. So,
yeah.
So we should probably mention, so people are curious, where actually was your last, where'd you hold the last event?
Sure. So our first 3 years was in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. We called it Teton Con, and it went great. We chose Jackson because it was about an hour and a half drive from me. And by we, I mean me and the friends that kind of helped me along with this. We kind of needed to stay close to home. Jackson is an absolutely fantastic destination. We do hope to go back there. But after 3 years, there were some things that we wanted to improve upon. One being cost, and then a few. We weren't super happy with the resort. It's a great resort we were at, but it wasn't exactly what we wanted. So we did a nationwide search, really, for our next destination, and said, well, if we were going to redo this from scratch, because the idea kind of stuck and it was a big success, where would we go? And we looked at everything from Disneyland to Alaskan cruises to East Coast destinations, Vegas, and ultimately we decided with our new destination, which is Breckenridge, Colorado, with Rocky Mountain Gaming Vacation.
And was there anything specific about the area that drew you guys to it? That what kind of, I know you said horseback riding.
So we looked at 4 different locations: La Crosse, Colorado, Estes Park, Boulder, and then to Breckenridge, and then kind of an area just outside of Breckenridge. And the biggest difference for us is that there's a major airport fairly close by. It is a shuttle ride, but Denver is substantially easier to fly into than Jackson, Wyoming, which is like $700 tickets into Jackson. Denver's much cheaper for most people. So that substantially dropped the price, which has been always very important to us. That one of our tenets of our business is that the gaming vacation should cost no more than a standard vacation to that area. You shouldn't feel like you have to pay a premium to go on a gaming vacation there. And then when I saw the area, which was recommended to me by a number of people, and I saw what there was to do, the quality of the town, the resort, I was sold, because I knew the experience was going to be as good, if not better, than the Jackson one, which is near Yellowstone and Grand Teton National Park. This one is in the heart of the Rockies. So a very similar setting, but really everything was improved. And then the other one is the resort. The Breckenridge Resort, we're going to be at Thunder Mountain Lodge, is just hands above where we were in Jackson, at a very similar price point for us. So we were able to keep the price down again, and just the quality of the rooms, the quality of where the gaming's going to be is just, once we saw the resort, we were like, there's no other place we're going to go or get for this price. So,
out of curiosity, do you find that most of the guests, are they local, or do people come from like all over the place? How far do people go to get there?
We get very few locals, not because they don't ask to come. I'll come back to that. Most of our guests are traveling. I mean, it is a vacation for them. It's not cheap. So, people are taking time off for work. It is a full week. And so most of our guests either fly, but we do get a lot of guests that drive. And that was another reason for the location switch. Is Denver is much more centrally located for drivers, especially from the Midwest, than Jackson Hole, Wyoming is, which is probably the hardest place on earth in America to get to, Alaska aside. Now, we have had some guests from all over the place. We've had people from New Zealand, England, and there's another foreign country that I'm sure will come to me here in a minute. But so, in fact, we had 2 people from New Zealand that were coming to see friends, had never played a game before in their life, and just raved about it. They said it was one of the best vacations they've ever been on, and the only game they played was Suro, which we kind of begged them to come down to the hall and play. They played it twice and loved it. So.
It's kind of like it's like teaching someone to swim by just dunking them headfirst in the pool.
No. You didn't dunk them headfirst in the pool. That'd be throwing them into Arkham Horror or something.
That's true, yeah.
We gave them a pool, but now they have to throw them in the river.
Yeah, Suro is a little...
I didn't quite bring out Arkham Horror or Twilight Imperium.
Probably smart move.
But I guess speaking of games, I know one of our favorite thing when we went to Board Game Geek Con was their big gaming library, and as you said, you have one. It looks like you have lots of it behind you.
Not all of it, but
is a lot of it your own personal collection, and like how does it? How much? What's the variety and that kind of thing like?
Yeah, so the first year it was definitely my collection that I then boosted. I mean, I have a budget through the business that I buy, that I keep current. I can't replicate the BGG Con library, but I have never had a guest complain about the library. I do a pretty good job of staying current with the really popular games. Like most of us, I have a problem and I buy way more games than I'm ever going to play anyways. So with a doubt, though, there's games that I buy knowing I'm only buying this because people are going to be looking for it at Rocky Mountain Gaming Vacation. I would probably not play this more than once, but I buy it. I typically play it once or twice just to learn the rules. And I guess, I don't know, I have a pretty good memory, so I can usually teach it, especially if they say, can you teach me how to play Planet Steam? I'll be like, I haven't played that in 7 years, but give me 30 minutes and I'll, go play a filler and I'll refresh myself on the rules and then we'll sit down and set it up and play.
Yeah, most of our game nights are spent relearning rules.
Yeah, because halftime you'll be like, okay, I've learned this game. You'll bring it there, and they're like, no, we're not playing it. Okay. Then 2 months later, well, we do that game? I forget the rules. So
Yeah, so hopefully you have help with that kind of thing.
Yeah, we have a staff that's now been, we've picked up a few staff members as we've grown, but my staff is probably one of my biggest assets. I have one guy who does virtually all the non-gaming stuff, so he takes care of, his name's Dan, all the guests know Dan, he takes care of everything. He's one of those guys I can say, they are complaining about their faucet, do not come back until their faucet is not dripping, and I know that it will be 100% fixed, which is just such a great asset, and I love Dan. And then I've got 3 or 4 really close friends of mine who, are working professionals, that this is a vacation for them too. And they love coming out and teaching games and playing it. It's not like a job for us. I mean, we have just as much fun as the guests. It's super enjoyable. The guests are usually really easy to get along with and keep happy. They're usually kind of floored at the experience itself, and that when they come in, they're typically greeted by a staff member, and we're, we say, are you here for a game? What would you like to play? Would you like to play something with just the 2 of you? Or would you like me to match you up with some other folks? But honestly, by Tuesday or Wednesday into the week, everybody knows each other. They roll in, everybody waves, says hi, and they, walk over, oh, we're going to play, whatever. And the staff are almost kind of in the way because they become so close and bond.
Yeah, I think that connects to what you were mentioning earlier, how this, unlike a convention where you sort of just hit one game and go to the next, you don't think about who you're playing with. This is definitely much more of a smaller group, so you really do actually feel that connection. So you can actually have a lot more fun with, like, okay, maybe you beat me at this game, but tomorrow night, let's see how you do against me in another one.
Yeah.
Exactly, and you have the ability to kind of, if you want to play the same game twice with the same people, we see a lot of that. And people learn the new game and they'll be happy to teach other things. And then I've learned so much also from my guests that come in. They're also super knowledgeable gamers. They bring a couple of games that are in my library. I've added a number of titles. CV sticks out in my mind, which I guess is being reprinted in America. Great game that I never would have found if I hadn't, had a bunch of awesome guests.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many games. I can't think how many times when we didn't hear about something, someone's like, "You hear about this?" And like, what?
Yeah.
But going back earlier, you mentioned how board games aren't the only thing that this is about. You have plenty of outside activities. What are some of the more popular ones you've noticed that people have chosen? Because I'm sure the list could go on forever as well if you listed them all.
Well, we haven't done Rocky Mountain. This will be our first year Rocky Mountain Gaming Vacation. But in Teton Con, the whitewater rafting, the horseback riding is always super popular. But one of the ones that was really popular that I was surprised by was the biking. They do a lot of bike tours, which they also have at Rocky Mountain Gaming Vacation. And we're still working to figure out the add-on adventures because a lot of the vendors haven't set their prices yet. But I'm really excited for Rocky Mountain Gaming Vacations. In the winter, they have these sled dog tours, which, you can go out with a team of sled dogs and ride around, and that's pretty cool. But they have those dogs in the summer too, so they've developed these giant scooters that 2 sled dogs pull you like on a trail, and you go with a group, but you have your own dog or 2 on these giant off-road scooters, which sounds like the coolest thing ever. So I'm really excited for some of the guests to get and do that. And then, the hiking there, you are right in the center of all the big mountains. So, there's always a lot of people doing hiking, and not just, we're going to go out and do 8 miles and 3,000 feet of gain. There's tons of really great flat hiking for folks that, are maybe a little intimidated by some of the big hikes around there. There's tons of great little lakes you can hike to. You can take the chairlifts up to the top of the mountain, hike around the top of the mountain, and then head back down. There's zip line courses there that are really neat. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff there that's also free, that you're not going to be shelling out a bunch of cash for. Breckenridge is an old mining town, and they've got a lot of history around that. The town itself is gorgeous, really conducive to walking. And that was another big fix from TetonCon to Breckenridge, was our resort is right downtown. I mean, we are about a half a block off of Main Street, which was a big draw for us because in TetonCon we were about 6 blocks, and it was certainly doable, but it sucked 30 minutes out of your day to walk to town and back. So not anymore. We are now not at the base of the mountain, but Breck has this really cool gondola that literally goes from a parking lot downtown to the base of the mountain, and it's free. So, to get to the mountain, you just got to jump on the gondola, ride it up, and you're right there at the mountain. So I think the trade-off of being closer to the restaurants, closer to all of that is without that worth it.
No, I definitely agree with that because I've been to Colorado before, and just hanging around there is just so nice. But being able to just decide late at night, and that's when you decide to, maybe I'll go out to eat, and just being able to walk, like you said, just a little bit, and you're already on the main street, is really nice. Because early in the morning when you go to the mountain, that's when you have the energy, so you can make it to the gondola.
Right.
But it's later when you want to just be like, okay, we'll just walk to the food there.
You get lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, my sister actually lived in Colorado for
that's
a year
true.
or two, but I never went. So, but also this year, I know you guys have Mike Fitzgerald as like your special guest. And talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so it was kind of a random occurrence. I mean, we've been kind of fishing for some good special guests to come. We almost had Martin Wallace. We still almost have Martin Wallace. He's, I've been trying to sell his wife real hard because we had a guest that worked for him. So I kind of had a direct line, and he's wonderful to deal with, but he's obviously very busy. And so Mike, emailed us one day saying, hey, I just moved to Colorado. I see you've got this thing. It looks really cool. I'd like to come and demo some of my new game designs there. And to be honest, I had never heard of Mike. And I was like, okay, cool. So I did like anybody else and just kind of Googled him. He said he had been in the industry a while. And I started to realize, he's kind of a big deal. And then we started talking with him, and I think I say on the website, he is like looking through the Rolodex of who's who in the gamer world when you talk to him. I don't think he intentionally means to do it, but he just has such close ties with people going back 30 years. I mean, he worked with Richard Garfield during when Magic was becoming big, when he released the original Netrunner. Right. He designed Wyvern. I mean, when I read that on Google, I was like, wait a minute, like Wyvern, the game from 30 years ago that, came out around Magic when all those CCGs were starting to come out. And then he has had his hands in things for years and years, and now is the co-host of Ludology, which is, a huge, amazing podcast. When he offered, I wouldn't mind also just kind of helping you guys get this going a little bit. We jumped on that fact. So, he's going to be there as a special guest, but he's also helping us out with getting to know some of the other industry folks that can kind of spread our message. Because the biggest problem we run into, which you guys are doing a great job of helping me out with, is people don't even know what a gaming vacation is. So if you're going to make a board game and sell it, there's people out there going and looking for board games to buy. If you're going to run a gaming convention, there's people out there looking to go to gaming conventions. But no one sits down and says, I'm going to Google search board game vacations. So we have to find ways to reach them, explain to them that it exists. Similarly, when BGG at Sea came out, we cheered because we finally had competition. We could compare ourselves to something, and the idea of a vacation and a convention kind of being merged. Now we are way more on the vacation side than I think BGG at Sea was trying to be. BGG at Sea I think was a wonderful idea, and I priced out that exact cruise, but we also had a price point to compare. Right? People said, well, is this fairly priced? I could say, well, look at what it would cost to go to BGG at Sea, and we're a different experience altogether.
That's like it's the tough thing about having that unique an idea that
no one even thinks about looking for.
How do you pitch something that doesn't exist? Yeah.
A few other people out there. There was another cruise going when I first had the idea. I started doing some Google searches. There was a cruise going out of the Bahamas, but I think it was just a travel agent kind of doing it. I think you kind of had to bring your own games. I don't think there was a staff. And then shortly after I started, there's one in Greece that really targets Europeans. Again, it's I don't think they have the support and the staff that we do that really makes us, I think, stand out. And then there's a couple of cruises that have popped up since BGGSC. But, I'm going to be honest, I don't really think board gamers and beaches are necessarily the perfect match. Not any reason.
Experience as we've played Scrabble on the beach. That didn't go well.
Yeah, there's potential to lose pieces and get sand. You don't want sand really anywhere near your games.
But earlier you mentioned how people would bring their own games. And have people brought a lot of, because you also mentioned the collectible card games, like have people brought their own Magic and sort of held small maybe Magic tournaments or stuff? Or insert another CCG?
Yeah, the first year when Netrunner was really big, we had quite a few Netrunner events. And we also had the Star Wars events, I think was similar year. Second year we repeated it. Third year we kind of went away from it. We did have a couple of guests that were looking for it, but ultimately it didn't happen. I kind of realized that was what the staff wanted to do. The staff wanted to play Netrunner and wanted to run a Netrunner tournament. And I kind of said, we got to remember, who we're trying to focus on. And I didn't really get the vibe out of the guests that they wanted that. I do have like a half a box of unopened Magic from 2014 boosters and some lands that I've always been, and we were going to do it this year. And I realized I had forgot all the land at home. So I was like, well, Magic's really hard to play without land. Card games are somewhat popular. Typically, the staff teach them. People are like, "Oh, you guys are Netrunner players. I've always wanted to play, and we'll teach it." I'm hoping that Game of Thrones 2.0, because I'm a big fan of that.
I actually got my hands on that. It's been a lot of fun, but I can tell you, whether it's Magic the Gathering, which is the regular, or any of the LCGs like the Game of Thrones or Android Netrunner. The hardest problem is that wall, especially the LCGs, because they have to change all the words to be very confusing. So like the Android Netrunner is like, put it in your drive and then use the USB-S and stuff. Like we're still having troubles with Doomtown, trying to understand that. So having someone there, I can definitely think that would be just great, even if it's just the starting point. I mean, you don't need to have every expansion, but just to actually understand, okay, now I know Netrunner. Like that would be a really great draw for me.
Yeah, just learning things.
And then the other big events we have is one of the guys that comes is my very good friend from New York, who is an RPG guru. I mean, he is my go-to guy for anything role-playing. And he runs everything for the role-playing side of it. And what I like about it is he is very good at making approachable games that people that are like, I've never role-played before, but I might as well try it here because none of my friends and family will see it. So, providing this fun experience where people can try out role-playing, and he typically runs pretty rules-light systems, but if people do want to play a heavy system, he'll run it. And the nice thing is I know that if a guest says, I want to play whatever game, I look at Mike and he's like, yeah, I can run that. I've done that. So
that is a really strong point for me, because first of all, before we actually started playing any of the RPGs, like if you asked me a few years before, I'd been like, why would I want to play Dungeons and Dragons? But like now that I've had to play a little bit, I've really enjoyed it, and I can definitely say though, having a good GM is night and day.
It's essential, yeah.
And if you could have someone who can change it from a light game for someone who's lighter to heavier, that's really amazing. Because I mean, I can just think of, after hearing some other people, because I did researching when we did a GM for one of the End of the World Fantasy Flight games, and some of the people were talking about how they actually made puzzles using like keynotes for their like more advanced players and stuff, and that's like really impressive. So to have someone on staff, I think is just such a huge bonus,
especially for such a wide assortment of different people who might be newer or older, things like that. Yeah.
Well, actually, considering how you said, people might bring their families here, so maybe be like one of them, maybe hardcore veteran.
Right.
While the other people are like, I'm not sure. I'm like, okay, look.
Probably going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike's a tremendous asset for us.
Yeah. On a personal note, and not really that personal, but what like any games recently? What were your favorite games, or is there anything from this year or last few months that you've been really excited about?
Well, I hate to be so cliche, but I've got a group. In fact, we're going to start here in about an hour playing through Pandemic Legacy. Like everyone else, I hated Pandemic, but I love Pandemic Legacy. Really good. And on a similar note, the staff has a personal board of Risk Legacy that we play like 2 or 3 games at every con. And I hate Risk, but that's super fun because we only play it 2-3 times a year, and we're super vindictive and super aggressive with each other because we know each other so well. So I mean, I own Africa and I've got like my capital there, and I just know that the pain is coming. Yeah, go ahead.
That's hilarious.
Because our group, because we have a Risk scene, I'm like you, I'm like regular Risk, I don't find that attractive, but this Risk Legacy I've loved. And Jonathan is the one who's captured Africa. And what happens with our group though is sort of funny because most of our players don't play aggressively. We sort of except for one player who we don't know how. It's not that he plays poorly. The dice rolls just aren't there for him. He's always get crushed. He was the one who got eliminated.
Who's usually our best player.
Yeah, he's usually the guy who wins every other game.
Yeah.
And it's just, the legacy game.
Those games are really fun, yeah.
Even
That's a great idea.
I would just love to see other people's games and see how to play. Like, just see the board and see your guys' names.
Yeah, do you guys have an audience for those games? you should.
We play them on break days. So when we were at Teton Con, we did a Yellowstone and a Grand Teton tour. So we had 2 whole days, like during the day, that the guests were out on tours, and we would play then. We have decided to make the tours optional this year to cut costs. So to give it an easier break point for folks who want to get to the vacation, we feel like we've included enough stuff that we know they're going to have a great time. And I don't think the Colorado area is quite the kind of scenic tour type thing that Yellowstone and Grand Teton is. There's a ton of awesome stuff to do and see, but not necessarily want to sit in a van for 8 hours, and see the geysers and whatnot. So, but back to the original question, kind of other games that recently I've liked. I love Fury of Dracula. The staff is also a big hidden movement. Letters from Whitechapel came out this past year at Teton Con, and it got played like 8 or 9 times. So I'm loving Fury of Dracula.
Yeah, no.
We haven't had a chance to play the official full version of that.
We demoed it at Gen Con,
Yeah,
but yeah,
we
it's
definitely
the new
play it.
version anyway.
And no, we've loved Whitechapel. So far, I'm just curious with your guys' scores. Out of the 3 or 4 times we've played it, what's his name? Jack the Ripper has only won once.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's like a savant at it. He's incredible. He beats me every time. It's funny because when we play Whitechapel, we only ever play one-on-one. I don't like it as a multiplayer game because, first of all, it makes a huge difference if Jack can sit there and hear what the constables are talking about. It's much faster too as a 2-player game. Whereas Fury of Dracula I like as a multiplayer game. Oh, sorry. That's probably my gaming group. Fury of Dracula fits much better in a lot of people. But yeah, we tend to find that the constables tend to win more than Jack, unless Chesney's playing, because he's just ridiculously good at it.
Well, we don't want to keep you from Pandemic Legacy, but to wrap up, what's your guys' in the future? Any big plans and long term, or even just for the upcoming event? What's going on?
So our plan is to run Rocky Mountain Gaming Vacation for at least 2 or 3 years, and then hopefully rotate back. We hope at that time to have grown to the point that we have 2 events each year, which has always been my dream, that we able to add events up until 3. I think I can sustain 3 events, and I think that would give people a lot of options. But the focus this year is really just this year and the next year is to just make Rocky Mountain Gaming Vacation Teton Con ×3 and just a really, really great experience. Pick up a few more special guests, and we have rooming right now for about 65 guests, and we expect to fill that up. We're halfway there already, and we're going to start our advertising again here in a month. And I think you guys are going to have one of our promotion codes for $25 off. So that's Roll for Crit. If you register and use that in the promotion code or interested in the comments, then it'll be $25 off per person.
Yeah, we will be reminding people of that. So that's June 19th to June 25th, 2016?
Correct, yeah. Which is an awesome time in the Rockies. It's not hot. It's not too cold. It's usually beautiful.
Yeah. But we should actually tell them where they can find and put in the promotional code.
Oh, yeah. Well, that would be IcarusTours.com, correct? Unless there's a better place.
Icarus Tours, and it's www.icarustours.com. And I believe RockyMountainGamingVacation.com will also get you there. But it's a little longer. And if you just Google Rocky Mountain Gaming Vacation, thankfully it comes up first or second. So.
Well, we'll definitely have a link to it in the description below this video, or maybe on the screen even, who knows. But yeah, if that sounds like something that interests you, if you're watching this, and it should, we recommend you check it out because it sounds really awesome, and hopefully maybe one or both of us will actually try to stop by.
We definitely want to see you. Yeah, I guess we forgot to mention that. You guys are sponsoring our happy hour that we're going to have each night. They have a little 2-lane bowling alley that we're going to have reserved just for us. We'll have some casual kind of social games, hot appetizers, water and soda. If people want something stronger, they can order that from the bar, so that I don't have to get a liquor license. And it should be a good time. So thanks, guys.
No, that's awesome. Really, we're very excited about that.
Oh yeah. No. So if you are looking for a vacation where you want to not only play board games, actually, see what's around, this seems to be the perfect target for you.
So I'm Jonathan Estes.
I'm Will Keeler.
And this has been Mike Canavan with us.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. It's been awesome, and thank you guys for watching, and check it out. Until next time, this is Roll for Crit.